everybody. Jeff Antoniuk here. Welcome to Guided Listening. So this week we're going to listen to the Brecker Brothers, the fantastic 1981 album Strap Hangin', and a Michael Brecker composition called Not Ethiopia. There's a lot to say about this tune, and there's sort of nothing to say just because it's like so. There's a lot, and it's pretty stellar. So we'll dig into that in a second for sure. I know you like my hoodie here. This is from the junior high school I went to in Edmonton, Canada. It's new though; it's not that old. I was up in Edmonton and did a presentation. My band director from back in the day is the principal there, and so it was fantastic connecting with Murray Smith, and I got a hoodie out of the deal, so that's pretty cool. In Edmonton, coming up in June 22nd, 23rd, we have the Jazzwire Saxophone and Improvisation Summit, a 2-day workshop in Edmonton, Canada. I hope you may be interested in coming. We have people from across Western Canada and the United States already signing up. We only have a handful of spots, so jump on that. And then for our 21st year, the Jazzwire Summer Summit here in the Washington, D.C. area. We're sold out for guitar. I think we have 1 piano spot left. We may have 5 horn spots left, trombone, trumpet, saxophone, whatever, some bass and some drums. So now's the time to look at the website and jump on that. Some great summer experiences coming up. Okay, well, let's jump into this tune. So the Brecker Brothers, Randy Brecker on trumpet, Michael Brecker on saxophone. One of the premier, I guess we call it jazz fusion bands of the era. Marcus Miller is playing bass on this. I think it's Richie Morales on drums, Don Elias on percussion, Mark Gray on keyboards, Barry Finnerty on guitar. And it's a really, cool blast and fast tune. It's sort of like a funky fusion-y samba. So it definitely has Brazilian aspects. I was listening a lot and, trying to find out, sort of what Latin aspects are going on. Was there some Afro-Cuban cymbal patterns? And, seems like it's sort of Brazilian, but it's going to sound pretty different than Brazilian. It's the opening line, or the main line of the tune, the A section of the song, is this really gnarly, very Michael Brecker-esque line. And we noticed that Randy isn't even bothering trying to play it on trumpet. It's got to be unplayable on trumpet and barely playable on any other instrument. But it's this really cool, gnarly line, and it gets repeated essentially the same way. A little change the second time, but it's 4 times the same idea 4 times. And that's good composition. Think about any pop tune. Repetition is important. So even when it's a gnarly modern, whatever, different kind of vocabulary sort of line, repetition is so important. So there's a lot that's just kind of overwhelming about this tune, but listen for repetition. There's so much repetition in the bass line. We're going to listen to Marcus's bass line, aspects of the composition and the arrangement, repetition. And it's interesting to listen back to Michael Brecker in 1981. He had certainly been recording for plenty before this time and then recorded for decades after. And it's so interesting to hear his language. I've just listened to so much Michael Brecker. I'm not a Michael Brecker scholar like some of you out there, but I know his language, and there's things that he's playing in here that we heard him play on practically every solo he ever played. And that's not a bad thing. That's his language. That's who he was. That's what he stood for. That was his approach to the harmony. So it never bugs me when I hear a player have vocabulary that they use a lot. To me, first of all, that just gives me a sense of how we can approach the music. And it's an artist's voice. So let's jump into this. Not Ethiopia. All right, the calm before the storm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just really moving along. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. And that's the line. Second time. Third time. Slightly different line. Same thing again, second A section. And this is all over one harmony. So here's the bridge. We'll talk about that one harmony in a second. So this bridge that opens it up and relaxes things. Very smart, important part of the composition. Listen to the bass. The bass is just hanging out. It's pedaling on one area. So all this insanity all that insanity is over one sound. I think it's an F sus sort of sound. And here we are. This is the same harmony that all that craziness was over at the beginning, but obviously a different feel, right? And so those definitely Brecker language. Awesome. So all of that, up to that point, was on this one tonality, one sound, one chord. So lots of double time from Michael Brecker, right? Lots of double time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So listen to the bass. So it's a samba groove, right? 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. And if you listen to the comping, it's mostly keyboards. I'm not hearing a ton of guitar, if at all, but it's a lot of long sounds, and there's a lot of space. Michael Brecker's filling up the space. We don't need the comping to compete with Michael Brecker. So listen to Marcus. Connecting with the bass drum. Bass solo. So a huge change, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the tempo is still going by like that. So a lot of people think when it opens up like this, like, oh, everything's stopped. Everything's floating in midair. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So that's what's going on. So the intense fast time is going on, but the musicians aren't playing it, right? When you go to sleep, the clock still ticks. You're not aware of it. You're not living those minutes and seconds and microseconds, but they're going by. So it's the same here. Incredible bass playing, of course. And the comping. The pads. And now, when Marcus started playing with a little space, it left a little space for some comping to be in there, some more rhythmic aspects of the comping. All right, Randy on trumpet. And he's got a little bit of a flanger, phase shifter on his tone, which he often did with the Brecker Brothers. A little, it's subtle. Listen to some of the bass fills. So octave stuff and this really great percussive rhythmic fills. So if Marcus was doing some of that stuff behind Brecker, it was harder to hear because Mike was filling the sound with a lot of notes, right? There's more space here, which is sort of allowing the band to be a little bit more forward behind him. Listen to the bass. That ending of the trumpet solo is weird. Like, I listened to that a bunch. I couldn't tell if that was an edit or like just not super successful part of the arrangement, but it seemed very sudden and almost arbitrary, but they're back into the head out. So the head out was really compacted from what it is, or what it was on the way in. And so great idea. Like this song, I think, as I was looking at it, was 5 minutes and 40 seconds long. There was a lot in there, right? And it's always a consideration. It's not always a consideration. Sometimes it's a consideration. If you want to get some airplay, and it was different in 1981 than it is now. But if your song is more than 6 minutes long, that makes it difficult for airplay on a more commercial station. Now, airplay assumes that there's like radio stations, which I know I'm sounding kind of old-fashioned and quaint talking about that, but the length of a song, it's important, right? So we can have, Coltrane live in Seattle or whatever, and a track is 24 minutes long. Great, that's an experience. But lots of times here, we're trying to craft something so that it's a little bit more like a pop kind of piece in a sense. This certainly isn't that. But those ideas, like how do we arrange? How do we have a solo that seems like it goes somewhere, but it also is sort of contained? So there's a lot of art to arranging and orchestrating a piece that was meant to be consumed by the public, on radio or whatever it is. So there's some cool moments in here. This is a really excellent tune to investigate. One of the sax players in one of the adult masterclass groups that I coach, I have 16 groups that I coach here in the DC area, other faculty members that help me with it, brought this tune in. So obviously it's a very advanced group, and I'm excited to get going with them on this. And this tune is in one of the Share Reel books called the New Reel Book. Anyway, it's available in one of those fake books. So it's kind of cool to have this lead sheet and watch it go by. So there's all sorts of incredible vocabulary from Michael Brecker, from Randy Brecker, and from Marcus on the bass. But for those of you that have been listening to lots of Michael Brecker for a lot of years, you recognize a lot of those textures and sounds and shapes that he likes to play. And I've been having a good time in recent years going back to some of that stuff that was just overwhelming and impossible for me as a less developed player, that now I can kind of hear it. I can kind of play it. I can practice it and have it. I can understand what he's doing and why, I think, most of the time. So it's pretty fun. And of course, this is the kind of stuff we get into in Jazzwire. We're not working on any Michael Brecker tunes this week. We're working on I'm Old Fashioned. We're working on I'm Confessing That I Love You. We're working on I Remember You, 3 really classic standards. But these are the sort of conversations that come up, and we look at this material, we talk about it, we work as a community. So I hope I will see you inside Jazzwire. And I hope maybe this excites you to check out some of this Brecker Brothers stuff. If you're not familiar with the Brecker Brothers from the late 70s, early 80s, some amazing recordings, and the artistry, the intensity, it's hard to match this kind of stuff. So I've had fun getting back to this strap hanging album. Hope you enjoyed it too. I'll see you next week.